Um, we shall record on the beaches. We shall record on the landing. We shall record on the hills. We shall record in the streets. We shall never surrender. And that'll do. I'm going to have a gap and then we're going to start. Can everybody still hear me?
I thought that was the show intro.
No.
It should be if it isn't.
No, it should be. Do a proper Churchill. Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. I tell you something, you better sit down, buckle up, because this is going to be an adventure and a half. Because I tell you something, it's already been an adventure and a half so far. He was on a little while ago to talk about Gloom of Kilforth. It is the one and only from Hall and Nothing Productions, the Mr. Fabulous, the Mr. Amazing, the Mr. currently recording through a piece of string and some tin. It's Mr. Tristan Hall.
Hello, and thank you for having me. And what an amazing intro!
And joining him tonight is the man who's battled through mountains, battled through ravines, battled through life itself to look at bringing his game to Kickstarter. At the moment, he's juggling between using a mobile phone and using a PC in order to record the show. It's the one, the only, the fantastic Mr. Mark Chaplin. Say hello, Mark.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. We're not wizards, and we're not tech wizards. That's the.
I think there was actually an Apple advert some time ago that was just still on YouTube, because I see it when I Google "We're Not Wizards" sometimes because I'm vain and self-centered. But it is an Apple advert to say that we're tech guys, we're not wizards. So there you go. You can take from that what you will. We've had Tristan on the show, and Tristan's lovely and fantastic and everything, but it's not about him. He's going to kind of jump in when needs be. But it's good to have you back on, Tristan, first of all. Thank you for coming back on. Though you're going to be wondering.
Thanks for having me
on. Start with yourself very quickly. Did you go to Aircon?
Yes, I went this weekend, yeah.
And if so, was it fantastic?
It was absolutely lovely. Aircon is very much for the gamers rather than the traders. I mean, the traders are there, obviously. I was there. But it's all about, like, the gaming. And the gaming area takes, like, twice as much space as the trade bit.
Yeah.
And this year they doubled in size. I think it was about 3 years ago when it was in Mark's bedroom or something, or in his house with like 20 people, and now there's like thousands going. So no, it was really lovely, and I was surprised how many backers we met, like existing backers. Everyone that came over to the stand, I was getting ready to pitch our games and tell them all about Gloom of Kilforth and 1066 and Lifeform. And they were all like, yes, I've backed the first two, I'm looking forward to the third one, or some combination of. Yeah, so it was really, really lovely, and everybody there has just had friendly. So after, when the trade closes at 6:00, we just went over and sat down and had games with some of the guys from Board Game Geek, from the One Player Guild, and
all right,
so it was just really, really great. I mean, I guess you could call it low key compared to UK Games Expo, but it was still quite sort of a big event, and it seems to be getting bigger every year. So.
It's kind of like...
you didn't go?
I didn't, no, because it was my brother's birthday, because he has to be born on the 10th of March.
He has to. Every year.
It's almost like it's an annual event. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But we're not here to talk about you. We're here to kind of talk about you. Did you see Rodney, by the way?
I did see Rodney, yes. He was very busy, and I didn't feel like it was the right thing to go and crowbar him away from all the work that he was doing with the playthroughs and things. It would have been nice to chat to him, but it just didn't happen.
I would have been right in there with the elbows up high, just barging myself past.
There was a lot of that going on.
in my check shirt. And my watch it played pin badge. Going like that, hi. But then he would have probably ran away screaming the other way. See, this has completely thrown me because I haven't even done the funniest part of the show, which is the intro bit, and I'm going to forget the middle part of the show, and I'm certainly going to forget about the end. Mark, you're involved with this lovely example of game design hood in relation to the next game that Hall or Nothing Productions is kind of bringing to the forefront. Now, one of the things that what we like to do is we like to find out a little bit more about people's kind of history with the kind of the pressed and printed trees. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into the hobby, first of all, yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. I started with the print-to-play side. Kickstarter wasn't really a thing when I started designing games, and the first one I designed was a game based on sieging a castle. It was a card game, and anyway, a couple of games later, I decided to share what I'd done online, and by that time I'd been lurking for ages on Board Game Geek, as you do. And I can't even remember if I even had an account. But anyway, I created a page, put the game up there, and within a short space of time, I got contacted by a Dutch company, White Goblin Games, and they said, could I send them, a working prototype and some rules for the game I put up there. The game was based on Aliens, even though it wasn't the first game I designed, but that's the one they were interested in anyway. So I did that, and long story short, they offered me an advance and wanted to publish the game.
So what year was that? When was that?
When they contacted me? Crikey.
Yeah, when did you...
Seems like it'd be a lifetime ago.
1066 Tears for Many Mothers.
I know. Well, the game was published in 7 years ago now. But I guess they contacted me in 2010, around there. Got a terrible memory, so it really does. Definitely pre-Kickstarter. Anyway, so Revolver became a thing, and that came out of the blue. I didn't even have to contact anybody. It was just because I was sharing stuff on the internet. So, and print and play was more of a thing then. Obviously now. People just tend to skip all that and put it on Kickstarter, don't they, and see if it flies, So, and then I had quite a good relationship with them. They published a few of my games and some expansions for Revolver and what have you. And during that time, I designed some other games, some of which still, rest ready for launch at some point, possibly. And Lifeform came along in my brain, so that's the incredibly exciting story. I didn't even have to send anything off to anybody. I was quite lucky, but I guess this was almost in an antediluvian age where old-fashioned publishers did that kind of thing. I don't even think they pay advances anymore. Maybe they do.
No, I think a lot of people do an awful lot of work and they hand stuff out, and then it's not until you've got kind of like a finished project and it's out the door that I think there's kind of any agreement with any kind of money. What kind of games do you like to design then, Mark?
Well, they're all primarily it's from the theme first for me. I've got to, because they take so long to do, you've got to have some drive to get it done, but you've got to have passion for the theme of whatever the game is, whether that would be, a historical reenactment or, of a battle or something. But that's kind of how I view, movie-based games or, game based on an IP or something like that. So, but nearly all my games have been science fiction in some way or another, but that I'm not quite sure. That's not by design. That's just how it's ended up. Not that they've ended up published in that form. They usually get rethemed But after so initially that kind of thing sort of bugs you a little bit, but then when so much time has passed, you almost forget what the original game was. Aliens becoming Revolver. I barely even think about it as Aliens anymore. Not that I play it. It's that's one of the things about when you design a game, you barely ever get to play the game after that. But
is that through a choice thing, or is that through a fact that you've probably worked through as many iterations of the game that you're kind of like, I don't really want to touch this again?
No, I'm not like that, actually. I've seen people put blog posts and stuff about, I hate my own game, I've demoed it too many times. I've got to say, that's never happened. I've never got bored of demoing my own game or playing them. You just get to, because primarily I'm designing games that I know Tristan feels exactly the same. You're designing games that you want to play that don't exist, that are slight, not a small variation on what's come before, quite different. And for me, it's a not conscious decision. It's just that you when you go to a games evening or an event, you're not going to take your own games. You'd get, what type of a dickhead would you have to be to go, hey,
wallowing in your own
crapulence? Look, who's the designer? Me. Let's play this. So, go on.
I was going to say if I designed a game, I would definitely be taking it about. And
no, I can't do that. I'm too. No, I just can't. That's beyond me. And we have a games night every week, and I've never suggested anything that I've designed, and I don't think anyone else would. I don't know. They just think it's not something done. I don't know. I don't know what Tristan's feels about that, but that's my
100% the same. Yeah.
So it's almost the curse. You design the game that you want to play, and then you never get to play it once it gets published. It's I know it's a first world problem, but it's
I disagree with that though, Mark, because I do play it at demos all the time.
True, but what I mean is, once all that stage has gone by, once the game's out there.
Yeah, you're back in the middle of the design phase
of another game. That's it. Yes, I guess. But then you don't get to then play that other game. But you, admittedly, you have played those games more than most people play other games. I would imagine. Hundreds, if not thousands, of times in different. So. You've probably you've had a good run out of it. The only problem is it's because it's reached the end point and it's as good as it's ever going to be, the published thing. That's the copy you play the least, isn't it? But before that, you've had bits, you post-it notes, and cut up index cards, and and all the rest of it that you've printed off it. So it's not conscious. It's just one of those things.
I remember Vlada Chavatal saying something similar about that. He said that by the time that Through the Ages was out there and people were playing it hundreds of times, they were experts at it, more expert than him, because he'd moved on to the next projects and everything. And then these guys were becoming like savants, and learning every single sort of, every tiny aspect of the game, so that when they did the reprint, the new story of Civilization, he had to sort of canvass the opinions of all these expert players to find out what needed changing and everything, because of course by that point that they're the experts.
But I think that's a good thing. I see it on Kickstarter quite a bit. I see quite a few guys running their campaigns going, okay, we're going to release I think the most recent one was the Simon boys doing it about the Song of Fire and Ice, doing about the wargaming thing, and they were punting out the rules and saying, what do you think of how these guys play? And what do you think of the balance on these rules? So I think it's worthwhile. I think you can learn something. I think the best thing to do is if you invent something or create something and somebody comes back on with an idea that completely blows your mind about your own creation, I think that's a pretty cool thing. Or if they're able to look at stuff, I guess, a certain way. Because I think if you've been working on something for say 18 months or 2 years of your life, do you know, I think it's sometimes a bit too easy to kind of get too close to the coalface, that it's difficult to see,
Yeah, you get blinkered. Yeah. No, and that's how I got started designing games, was tinkering with other games, uploading scenarios for Lord of the Rings, the card game, or the Dungeons and Dragons adventure system games, and tweaking those is how I got my nose into sort of proper game design in the first place.
No, what you going to say? Sorry.
Well, I'm just going to say, and then seeing other people do the same with your game, like once your game's out there, you know, it belongs to the public almost. And so now we've got, like fan-made scenarios for Gloomy Killforth and everything. It's absolutely fantastic. It's like full circle, you know, seeing people go and take your, world and run with it and then add something new and creative to it is just, it's a brilliant feeling, I think.
It's pretty cool. I guess if somebody's actually sat down, taking the time. Do you get folk that have actually?
Last year I designed 2 expansions for someone else's game that were print and play, just to. So I've not lost that bug. I could have spent that time more productively creating something for me that I would have done something down the line. But it's about passion for what you want to do. And when you get gripped by something, even if it's somebody else's game, I'd much rather do that than. So.
Yeah, you're obviously so into that game that you wanted to sort of get more involved and tinker with it. Yeah.
So how did you two meet? I mean, was it an advert? Was
Blind
it
date?
board game publisher? Board game publisher would like to meet board game designer.
What?
For
BGG
fun.
We messaged each other on Board Game Geek, didn't
we messaged each other, and then I think you phoned me up one afternoon, didn't you?
Yeah, we were messaging him.
Just imagine that. Do you know who this is? No. This is me.
How did you just get my phone voice so perfectly then?
This is Tristan. I'm gonna call the police.
We were into the same.
No. We want to design games together, Mark. We want to design games together.
You're giving game nerds a bad name.
I don't think that's possible.
It's like history in action.
So
it wasn't. It was just a mutual chat about an experience we had with somebody who will remain nameless that does very well on Kickstarter currently, as well as back then. Both of us had a sour experience. So basically, we were formed a brothership, of some kind, or fellowship or some kind, but due to both having a sour experience with the publisher, and not the one I mentioned earlier, I might add. No, it wasn't. Definitely wasn't they. It's all
right. Just put it in the show notes because nobody reads the show notes, and it'll be cathartic. You could put it in the show notes just right away, and nobody will read it. It'll be like your secret diary.
So yeah, I mean.
We'd been into the same games on Board Game Geek, so we knew each other's avatars, I guess, from like talking about games over the years and that. And then we actually met at UK Games Expo. I think was the first time we sort of met in person.
Was that weird?
And I'd been
kind of cool. Was it kind of, hey, did you go for the handshake? Did you go for the high five?
I kind of got used to it now. I don't know how Mark feels, but like it's meeting gamers at expos and stuff is sort of par for the course now. The only difficulty is they never look like their avatar. They're never Dragon Ball Z or whoever.
Don't look like a gold.
Disappointingly
sounds like a Black Mirror episode where their avatar should be floating above their heads, shouldn't it? Then you'd know who half the people were.
It's gonna give it a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Give it a couple of years. Everybody will have their badge with their BGG avatar on it.
Should have that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well, they're already doing T-shirts and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have been known to kind of, wear a "We're Not Wizards" T-shirt about the place. So when people go, "Oh, that's cool. What is that?" Oh, let me stop and tell you. In fact, put these headphones on and let me give you a taster of what it's all about, because I'm shameless. Such a sad little life form. But speaking of life form,
seamless that was. Didn't even notice.
You should never point out your segues because they will come back to haunt you. Let's talk about Lifeform, because obviously you guys got together. You guys creatively got together and decided to put something together after obviously chats and stuff like that as well. So what's Lifeform all about? What are we expecting? Is it coming to Kickstarter quite soon?
Yes, this month hopefully. So we've just got to get the the final touch is put on 1066 Tears to Many Mothers, which was my second Kickstarter. And once we've sent off the final files to print on that, we want to hit go straight away on Lifeform. So the biggest thing from my point of view is we want to keep all of our existing backers happy and make sure that they know all of our projects are getting like 100% attention. And I don't want them to think that we're spinning too many plates at once. What's difficult sometimes to convey is that actually once the files have gone off to print for a game, like with 1066, my role in that is kind of done. I'll still be observing the printing process and the manufacturing prototypes and stuff. But the design, the art and everything else is all complete. So it's kind of out of my hands. So from my point of view, I'm ready to chase onto the next project, but we just need to illustrate that really clearly to our backers that, you know, that all of our bit is done. And so hopefully, you know, by enough goodwill that they're okay with us launching the next project, because I've seen other people do it where they have lots of projects going at once and you know, they're not coming through.
Colossal have just done Western Legends and then did Kami-sama. Druid City Games, you know,
and it can create, you know, it can create bad will, and I understand that, and so that's crucial for me to handle from like a PR point of view. But once we have sent those files off, you know, the way I see it is that the path is clear to launch Lifeform. I mean, the fact is it has an existing fan base already of people who want to get it on Kickstarter ASAP, you know, so it's just pleasing those people and making sure that our existing backers of our current games are also happy. So it's just finding that balance and making sure that all of our ducks are lined up for the launch, you know, that we've got the playthrough video ready, the promo video, the rule book, and all the tasty morsels that we can share about the game.
What's the message, Tristan? How do you play it? What is it? What kind of game is it?
That sounds like more like a question for Mark, maybe?
What's the message? How do you play it?
It's a team game, so it's a survival horror team game, up to 4 players, where one player forms one team, so it's, you know, it's one versus many, and they play you know, an utterly hostile alien organism that is, you know, hellbent on destroying the other team, which the other team is formed of all the other players who work together and win or lose as a team, and they are playing the badly equipped crew of a mining starship that's about to explode, and no, you know, as bad as that would be, trying to, you know, get to an emergency escape shuttle, they're also being hunted by this star beast that's almost like a space god, you know, that can't be killed and is, you know, almost indestructible. And so, yeah, like you say, it's survival horror. It has elements of bluffing. It's asymmetric in that the crew players use their own crew action deck. The alien has got his own deck of cards that control his actions. It's a diceless game.
No, I mean, no, diceless is... Why diceless? Are you trying to remove the chance kind of element out of it?
Well, obviously there's some chance because of, you know, the way the game plays out and you're drawing cards. But typically, in a 3 or 4 player game, the crew players would go through the entire deck anyway. So amongst them, they would pick, somebody's bound to pick out the card, you know, that they would need. No, it was just a decision not to go with dice at the beginning. You know, when you make like a mission statement, this game will do this, this, and this. One of the things was I just didn't want to do something with dice. Though dice are like, you know, one of my, you know, I've got that many, probably in the top 10 collections of custom dice in England, I'm sure. I've got my house is absolutely groaning under funky dice, so it's not.
How many dice, Mark?
I couldn't say honestly. Mark, it's almost an obsession in collecting.
Is it more than 17?
Yeah, that puts me in the ivory tower of dice collectors.
It's got a D17. Okay, maybe you can answer this question, yeah. On a D8 dice, okay, on a D8 dice, an 8-sided dice, why have they got a line underneath the 6? They say the 6 is the right way up.
Yeah, I don't think it's on every.
To show you it's not a 9, obviously.
Tristan, I'll repeat the question. On an 8-sided dice.
I don't think it's on every D8, but it's a good question anyway.
Could you check through your collection?
Yeah, hang on a minute. Let me just check every demi-John I've got filled with dice.
There's only 20. There's only 23 dice there because you said you've got slightly more than 17. So I'm guessing you've got about 23. So I'm guessing not all of them are 8-sided dice as well. Maybe 5 or 6. So if you could check that, and you could just let us know. And again,
don't tell me you've never played with that guy who's rolled it and gone, nope, that's a 9. That's definitely a
9. I've played it with somebody and didn't realise we were actually playing a dice game. Oh, I definitely win. It's like the magic. You're playing magic and you're rolling a dice. Yeah, I think so. It's kind of like, that's for keeping your life points. No, it's not. How long does it take to play?
You what? Sorry.
How long does it take to play?
Well, like with most games, experience with the systems is obviously quite a large factor. But typically, from 90 to 60 minutes with 4 players, one of its strengths, I guess, is it's pretty quick playing for the type of what you would normally expect for a heavy theme. Horror, a game where there's a lot of conflict during it. You'd imagine you'd normally suck your breath in and go, this is going to take all evening, 3 or 4 hours. But there's a couple of different ways you could have gone designing the game, and what one version of the game would have been that where you had tons of equipment cards and you're rolling dice, and the game took all evening. Or the approach that we took, so it's pretty fast. Obviously, if the alien is very efficient. And the game can go a lot quicker because it's completely ruthless in that if let's say the crew are holed up in a lab, say, or somewhere on the starship, and there's 4 of them, and none of them have got a defense card, and they've done nothing as the alien approached. All the alien has to do is play 1 attack card to move into the room, and if none of them run, hide, or defend themselves, all those crew members are dead. There's no other resolution. It's completely deterministic in that fashion. So the game, one meaning is the game can go pretty quick. If the crew are rubbish and the alien is good, then obviously that swings then you set up another game, and that doesn't happen very often, I would say. Most people are pretty canny, but I have seen it happen where three characters died in one room in the first few turns, but that doesn't happen very often. They certainly don't make that mistake again.
Is there player elimination then?
No,
people...
There's each player starts with 2 crew, each crew player, but there are secondary roles when you have got no crew left. So so you can choose there's 2 secondary roles. There's the mainframe computer, which doesn't have a piece on the board, but has an entirely different set of actions and things that they can do. Operate security doors, close bulkheads, switch the gravity off in localized parts of the starship, things like that. Or they can play the ship's cat, which sounds like a pretty funky. When it came up with that, I thought people were going to think it was daft or what have you. But actually, that seems most people that have been in the situation where they were picking a secondary role pick that for playing the cat. The cat moves around the starship. Is more efficient at moving through vents, but and has a completely different deck of action cards. But so the idea was that you could play a game where there was a lot of crew character elimination, but nobody's ever out of the game. So and the crew can never kill the alien, and if they did, which would only be at the showdown on the shuttle, if that happened, the alien's never defeated. You can't remove it from play. So there isn't a situation where you can have where nobody's got something to do in the game.
What did you call the cat?
It hasn't got a name. It's just.
You've got to call it Jonesy.
No, you can't. No, that's too. It's too close to an IP.
Exactly.
No.
Oh,
and also, it's not called it's not like you call in the ship the Nostromo. That's why I call the cat. it's a different starship, so it's.
But what would you call the cat
They
then?
can call it whatever they like.
Bonesy.
Satan.
Bootsy. Bootsy the
People,
starship cat.
I'd rather they imprinted it with their own silly names.
All right.
But yeah, it's just the ship's cat at this point. So
Have you got miniatures then?
no, they're standees. You could do the alien with miniatures, but for speed, because this project has already been going on for years.
Yeah.
And we're just going with standees. As it is, the board is massive. The prototype boards have all been approximately 40 inches by 20 inches, which is pretty big. You couldn't play it with any smaller due to the number of rooms on the labyrinthine mining vessel. But if you were going to play, the problem with using miniatures, if you've got a lot of crew characters in one room, it would get messy. And that's a bit of a bugbear of mine. I don't particularly like games that haven't thought it through. But with standees or character discs, that problem is solved. So I know that we obviously it's been discussed, and there's no way that the game wouldn't do massively better with miniatures, because all games with miniatures seem to do better regardless of quality. I don't mean the quality.
But do you not also think that if you put a game with miniatures nowadays and people expect a really, really high standard
of what, miniature or game? They don't expect a high standard
miniature.
of game, I've noticed. But
No.
I backed some of them, so I can tell you
It's going to be a unique selling point that it doesn't have miniatures.
Yeah. I mean, if you think of, like, say, City of Kings, that's standees. Dead of Winter, that's all standees. And I think there was
Kilforth.
Yeah, Gloomy Kilforth, standees. I think it's nice to have not big waddly bits of plastic everywhere. I know the production values can be absolutely fantastic on these things, but I think as soon as you put miniatures on a game, people concentrate on the miniatures, and maybe don't concentrate as much on the game maybe as they could do.
Yes.
Yeah, and if they're not world-class miniatures, the game can really suffer in its reputation can really suffer as a result.
Yeah, the thing is, it's always, with miniatures, I find, monsters are very easy to do, to recognise the board state, because obviously each monster looks different, etc. But when you've got, say, 12 different crew members, and they're all basically in mining overalls, it would be difficult without coloured bases or something. But even then, you'd have 12 different shades of. It would be problematic, I think. And like Tristan says, unless they were world-class miniatures, it might be difficult to tell who is who, even if you're familiar with the miniatures. So, and
they don't really add anything to this game. The way that, as Mark described it, with over 80 chambers on the map, you'd be hard pressed to fit. As soon as a couple of guys into the same room, the miniature's going to be spilling over, and it's just going to look daft. It's not.
If you were going to,
unless they were like 5mm scale.
If you were going to design the game for use of miniatures, let's say I work for a miniature company, I wouldn't have designed this game. The functionality, the theme, all of that came before thinking of anything to do with how we're going to do this with, so. It wouldn't. It was never consideration, because the board was always massive. I mean, to give an example of a recent survival horror that did really well on Kickstarter, Nemesis. Now they've got fantastic miniatures, etc. But I've watched some playthrough videos. They've got a large board that's got approximately 10 to 15 rooms, and in many of the situations I've watched them play, even with just a board with 12 rooms, their space station is struggling to get the monsters and the characters. And then, they've spawned other things. It's spilling over. It looks cool from a distance, but functionally, they got into some tricky situations where our spaceship has got 80 rooms. So you can imagine the size of the board you'd need to accommodate. I think if we were going to do miniatures, like I said at the beginning, I think the only thing you could probably do would be the alien. The alien organism would be, because the alien is never really coexists with the crew or with with its sensor ghosts. So you could get away with a 28mm miniature, and I have done in some of the demo sessions. But,
So, how much is it going to be to step in or climb aboard this ship of terror?
You mean how much is it going to cost for the game?
Well, yeah, I was trying to be like use adjectives and similes and poetic, lovely language, but you just brought me down to crashing
brass tacks.
How much, Tristan? How much?
It's going to be for the base game. It's going to be hopefully less than £50. We're still waiting for the final quotes from the publishers. But yeah, we're aiming for 40 something at the moment.
Have you ever thought about going for a completely random number, like say 4763?
You couldn't do that on Kickstarter, wouldn't they? It has to be a round number.
Oh, that's absolutely rubbish.
They work better.
It's just
from a psychological point of view, you're better off having a rounded number anyway. You know, it's
yeah, I suppose.
a lot of marketing.
But it's just
and
another.
From an account's point of view, it would be an absolute nightmare.
It's just another reason to me why the Kickstarter bubble's bound to burst if you're not allowed multiple silly numbers in decimal places.
We'll have a number of expansions available on the Kickstarter as add-ons, but the price of those is yet to be, finalised yet. So it should be interesting.
That will all be available in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Yeah.
Well, what we'll do is, we'll make sure that when the campaign's live, that we put out the message so everybody is kind of aware of this. In the next couple of weeks, because I'm aware this has been quite a short episode due to some fun and games, which I'm not going to go into. But either Mark or Tristan or both of them are going to come back on. I'm recording this now and making a promise that these two are coming back on again. I don't know why I'm just saying this. I might just edit this bit out. I don't know. but
we'll do that for sure, yeah. We'll be happy to.
Don't keep mentioning it because it makes it more difficult for me to edit. But
so what do you think about coming on the show again, Mark? Are you up for coming on the show again, Mark?
Yes, I'm totally up for it, yes.
I hate you, Mr. Hall. I hate you with a passion.
Is that because I said we're coming back on the show, Richard?
No, that's not at all. It's going to take a lot of editing. Where do you exist on the internet webs? Where can we find you if we want to keep up with what you guys are going to be doing and also keep up with Lifeform?
We've got an official Lifeform chat group on Facebook, which is a burgeoning little community. So you can find us on there, and myself and Mark are both active on Facebook, so you can connect with us directly. We're also on Twitter, the pair of us, and we've got a Whole or Nothing page, business page on Facebook as well, and we've got Facebook groups for each of our games. So for Gloomy Killforth and 1066 Tears to Many Mothers as well. But if you're interacting with myself or Mark on Twitter or Facebook, it is just us. So feel free to contact us directly and message us. Mine's Ninja Dog. Yours is Yougblad.
There's we've not got a separate Twitter account for the game. I always find that annoying because usually these things, they get a signal boost, don't they? And then a couple of months later, no one ever accesses the account and the thing dies. So it's better that it's got a continual presence from myself and Tristan, and it's not as if I just ignore stuff about Lifeform. And also, if clearly some people listening will be on Board Game Geek, and we've already, there's been a page up there for years, so they can just subscribe to the Lifeform page. They'll, there's the updates obviously will be posted there.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. Actually, Board Game Geek is, if you subscribe to the game on there, we'll be posting all the Kickstarter updates and launch date and everything on the Lifeform page.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's been one of the benefits of having the game been in design about 5 years, is that
it's totally covered.
No, what I mean is, it's like a trawler that's just going ghost-like up and down the coast. It's before even mention of Kickstarter, we'd already attracted like 450 subscribers. So
it's just like somebody staring at the coast. Daddy, what be that? That be the Lifeform boat, my son. It's been going about these waters for the last 5 years. Is it going to dock, Daddy? Well, rumour has that Chaplin man is going to be bringing it to port in the next couple of weeks.
Exactly that. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah. So they can find
Guys,
us there as well.
Okay, Daddy. And where can you find these We're Not Wizards people? Well, son, that's a good question. If you go to Twitter, you can find this is going to be one of those shows. This is going to be an absolute joy to edit. I can't wait. If you go to Twitter, you can find us on We're Not Wizards. If you go to Facebook, you can find us on We're Not Wizards. If you go to Instagram, guess what? We're Not Wizards. If you go to YouTube and search for We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast, you can find us there. You can find us on Spotify, because they said yes. Silly people. You can find us on Stitcher and Speaker and Player FM and Acast and Podknife, and you can even go to our website, we'renotwizards.com, and find it there as well. If you like what you've listened to tonight, and I think you should just like it for the trauma that I've put these two gentlemen through tonight. It's not like these other podcasts, they know how to record properly. Shh, Mark, he's a professional. Please go to Apple Podcasts and drop us a subscription or drop us a rating and a review. If you are deciding to give us a review, don't give us a 10 because it makes us really big-headed. but don't give us a 1 because it kind of makes us cry. Give us a 5 because it's in the middle and it's average, and we're a little.
Give him a 10. Give him a 10.
No, the iTunes thing only goes up to 5.
Give him a 10 anyway.
Give me a 10 anyway.
Or 2 5s.
Yeah. But the people who have not been average tonight, it's the wonderful, fantastic trooper, designer, print and play, and all-round dice master that is Mr. Mark Chaplin. So thank you for coming on, Mark.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you. It's been hilarious. Before the show and during.
Yeah, let's not go into that. That's going to be a good thing for this week's therapy session. And it's a goodbye to the wonderful Mr. Tristan Hall from Hall or Nothing Productions. Thank you again for coming on, sir.
Thanks so much for having me back on the show.
Thank you. And there's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, gentlemen?
Mark actually is.
Get out. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it is a goodbye from the designing life form that is Mark Chaplin. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And it's that man he's either worth all or he's worth nothing. That's Mr. Tristan. It's Mr. Tristan Hall.
That is a heavily loaded sentence right there. Goodbye, and thank you for having me.
That's all right. And it's goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s. In space, you can name your cat what you want as long as you don't name it after a popular IP. Otherwise, the big alien lawyers will come and get you.
Yeah, we don't need that.
We don't need that. But until the next time, goodbye.